Hi, I'm Jim Berger, pastor at Holy Cross Lutheran Church in Houston, Texas. This is Pentecost 9b, and it's John 6, 1 through 15. Fight and die, or eat and live. It's Passover season, April 29 AD. The annual trail ride pilgrimages to Jerusalem are in progress. Many people are on the move, fording rivers, trekking through wildernesses, leaving garbage and waste in their wake, marching and eating their way to Jerusalem like a horde of locusts. If the harvest is good, it will be a prosperous time. Roadside vendors will be smiling like the t-shirt guys at the Super Bowl. If the harvest is not good, anticipate short tempers, road rage at mule speed. People won't be hungry, they'll be hangry. They will beat you up for beans. While it is a traditional trip that brings the religious community together for a great celebration, it's also a destabilizing factor in the social and political world. It's hard for an empire to keep track of a rebellious population that is moving about. Jesus has 1 year to live. Something miraculous happens in the wilderness. He multiplies loaves to feed a multitude. This story is told with variations 6 different times in only 4 Gospels. It's the only story that's repeated in the New Testament more times than that of the death and resurrection of Jesus. It's a very important moment recorded in history. The wilderness, it's the birthplace of Judaism, the birthplace of Christianity. It is perfect in its austere, sometimes imperfect, lethal nature. It's a perfect battlefield. It's classified as unclean. So, slain soldiers lying about won't make it any more or less unclean as you travel through a battlefield. It is a perfect place where Moses came down from the mountain with the tables of the law. The wilderness is a place of sanctuary and vision quest for aspiring prophets. But you don't go there to picnic. No way to eat kosher in the wilderness, not without special dispensations from maybe the high priest or a very important rabbi. Jesus, by multiplying loaves and providing food in the wilderness, is guilty of promoting at least 5,000 infractions of kosher law. In the Gospel of John, this is Jesus' institution of communion. He doesn't have exactly the same kind of Last Supper as Matthew, Mark, and Luke describe. This service, though, does supersede the upcoming Passover. How are you going to keep them coming to Jerusalem when they've seen what Jesus can do with nothing in the wilderness? Why, it's like God and Moses feeding the wilderness wanderers from manna, with manna during the Exodus. It's like the prophet Elisha in 2 Kings 4, except that Jesus feeds 200 times more people with 1/4 of the resources. Elisha feeds 100 people with 20 loaves. That's 5 people per loaf. Jesus feeds 5,000 people with 5 loaves. That's 1,000 people per loaf. What a crowd. They'd rather fight and die than eat and live. It's the end of the day. People are sick. They're hungry. They're seeking out Jesus. Jesus has a plan. Philip, where are we going to go get food? Jesus, we can't grub it up. We can't buy it. We can't pick it. I guess we'll have to just keep moving. But Andrew chimes in. Hey, there's a child here. He'll share 5 barley loaves and 2 sardines. What do you think? This child is the centerpiece of the miracle. He saw possibility, not puniness, in the offering that he brought to the table. Think about it. He overheard an inner circle conversation, and he bravely interrupts 12 big scary guys and the MVP of the universe to offer a little suggestion. The disciples should have been looking for small ways to succeed, not big excuses to fail. In the words of the late John Belushi in Animal House, Nothing is impossible for the person who will not listen to reason. Nothing's impossible for the person who will not listen to reason. The children process problems on more than one level. School's about to start up now with all that neat, funny randomness that in-person education provides with a personal interaction. Like the English teacher wrote on the blackboard, "I ain't had no fun all summer." And she says, "Now, little Johnny, what shall I do to correct this?" Little Johnny waving his hand. He says, "Go get a boyfriend, Miss Smith." There are estimates of how many people are actually there for this feeding. This text mentions people as in the whole crowd. Other texts mention individuals who were counted, in other words, soldiers or fighters. When you do a census, you're counting troops for a possible battle. If it is all the people there, and they're numbered at 5,000, that would mean maybe only about 2,000 of them were able-bodied fighters and soldiers. Frankly, a small, hopeless army against any Roman legion. And actually, if they don't win every single battle they engage, the women and the children who are with them as support troops will be killed or enslaved. So if this is a misbegotten troop muster on the way to making a big splash at Passover this year, a poorly strategized attempt at revolution, it's not going to end up very pretty. It won't even start out too well. If the army eats, the women and children present may starve. Every story in the New Testament has as its background matrix, its background reality, the constant filter of gnawing hunger. Part of every story is not enough calories to feel good today. Is this pointless, probably failed endeavor at revolution really worth it? Would you sit there at a wilderness trailhead and selfishly eat your fill in front of your hungry wife and children so that you'd have strength for a long march and then a battle afterwards that you'll probably lose and your loved ones would die too? Would you eat and leave your loved ones hungry because of your poorly strategized cause? Seems more important. Here's the choice. Fight and die, eat and live. Use your caloric resources to deprive your loved ones so that you'll have enough calories to hate and kill the occupational Roman enemy. Or use your basic nutritional resources to love and nurture and heal your beloved family and tribe and country. To lift up the world. How they all eat together is also important. To eat standing up is how a soldier on alert must eat. Eat and run means eat and fight. Jesus orders them to sit down. This is not a temporary bivouac. You will recline to eat as at a formal banquet. And the attendance at this banquet will make the attendance at Herod's birthday party look minuscule. The Passover starts here and now in the wilderness. The banquet starts in slavery. Distribution will be to those who will be seated. And another amazing miracle here you've got to mention is that the crowd control that Jesus and the disciples seem to command. So this is in some ways a decommissioning event. The crowd is shocked, maybe shamed into the realization of how to do the right thing in the right way. Gratefully and willingly share resources, pull together as a people, not as partisan pawns in a political establishment game. Agricultural resources are dwindling and disappearing as the empire urbanizes and slips into a slave-based economy in the territories. If you can't possibly win the fight, you better stay home and farm. Learn to farm. Be subversive, grow food. If the empire can get you off the farm, liquidate your property, and make you dependent on urban life, it will control you. There are no supply lines in the wilderness. Even urban supply lines in Houston depend on complex networks over which we have no control. every major city has only 3 days of food in it. The country's not working together to survive, and that is a prescription for disaster. Don't take your family's last chance at a square meal and haul it to a foreign battlefield in a lurching lunge for glory. Miraculously, they listen. They recline. They eat. And there are more leftovers than fixins. Small beginnings, big results. It's a miracle. The early church remembered that wonderful day in the wilderness of fear and despair. We've lived that too. A little history. In 1970, we had a scout shack in the back. In November of 1970, Pastor Lilly moved to let one of our young members use it from 7 to 8:30 p.m. for his band rehearsals. Pastor Little seconded the motion. It passed. I'm sure that it was loud if it was the regular garage band of those days. So that was November. In December 1970, Hillshire Village Police Department came up with a solution. They approached us about the possibility of renting the scout shack for an extra holding cell for people who'd been arrested, since they were low on space and they needed a place to put them before they transported them to Harris County Jail. It's like, you do the crime, you do the time at Holy Cross. Pastor Pearson was directed to get more information, and there was never more information forthcoming. So Pastor Sheely and some members repaired and cleaned the scout shack for Sunday school use. Then later, the church decided to do a food pantry instead. 50 years later, that food pantry, supported by the congregation, quadrupled in floor space and storage. People could shop there for free instead of being handed a bag of out-of-date cans. Freezers made giving out meat and fresh vegetables and breads possible. The Houston Food Bank named us the best pantry out of 700 outlets in the city in 2015. And in 2020, with the pandemic, we fed 40,000 people safely. We didn't think that was going to happen. We didn't aspire to that kind of a wonderful outcome. It would be ludicrous to even consider that. We just wanted to make friends, to help people feel more comfortable, less nervous when they were going through a challenging and hungry part of their lives. We listened to their stories and we cherished them and passed them on. We recounted them to other people who cared and got them involved. All we wanted was to help a little. We gave just a little, and a whole lot happened. Fight and die, or eat and live? Well, I know what I choose. Just don't give up 5 minutes before the miracle really happens. Amen.